Hey everybody, welcome to the afternoon session of AMA Junior Camp today on Thursday, July 20th. It is 2 p.m. Eastern Time here in Indiana, and we're joined this afternoon by my friend, Tad Douce. Hi, Tad.
Hey, how's it going, Claire?
Awesome. We are so excited to have you here today at AMA Junior Camp. I love the program that you do, and I'm really excited to share it with all the kids that are watching. And just to remind everybody, this is a live stream. So if you leave us a comment during the live stream, we might just see it and we might be able to answer your questions, which is pretty exciting. But if you are watching this at a later date, feel free to email me at education@modelaircraft.org for any questions you might have for Tad, and I'll forward them his way. All right. So without further ado, Tad, tell us what it is that you do.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I wear several hats. But my main thing is I'm an educator. So I started off in the world teaching pre-engineering, and that's really got me involved in flight. And later on in life, we started a nonprofit to help students learn about. We started in robotics, and really learning about STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we kind of moved into drones because a lot of students wanted to make a robotic drone or an autonomous vehicle. And then we kind of got into drone racing. And so now we have an event called Drones in School. And so that's what I do for a hobby, is run that organization. That's what I want to talk about a little bit today. But mainly I'm in education and tinkering. So, I love to do anything with radio, flight, drones, gliders, anything I can get into is pretty fun stuff. So.
That's
now, how long have you been doing the Drones in School program, Tad?
So Drones in School, we started about 3 years ago. Obviously this year with, everything going on in the world, our season got cut a little short, but we've seen quite a bit of growth. It kind of spawned out of our robotics competition. And as we realized we were doing mostly remotely operated vehicle with the drone, we weren't really programming them to be autonomous. It was more in line with what AMA does, with you guys using radio control. So the autonomous is really cool, but it's not very fun to watch. So,
yeah.
We wanted to create something that was exciting for kids, very similar to like a Vex Robotics. And those were our first robotics, if you've been familiar with those. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to have that ability to have kind of a game and a competition feel to it. And so that's kind of what we ended up with.
Yeah, well, it was really fun meeting you at, I think it was at a Ready Made RC community night that we met. And, you were going through and, pulling together resources and having fun. It was really cool that you were partnering with a local community and organization like that to kind of source some of the materials that you bring into the classroom.
Yeah, and when I started, I was at a area called the Columbus Idea Foundry, which is the world's largest makerspace. It's in Columbus, Ohio. And I was chatting there with a guy named Will Nickley, and he was involved with an organization on the East Coast called Safety Third Racing. And probably some people have heard of Safety Third Racing with drones. And he had this idea to do kind of a drone racing in schools. And I taught engineering, right? So immediately I went to, how can we get kids to learn how to build them and design them? And so we kind of went that direction. Safety Third has an event that they run, which is more pure. You buy a kit and put it together and you race it. But for our event, you actually have to design your own drone. So they actually have to 3D print or somehow manufacture the drone. As a student, you can't just buy it and fly it. You've got to do a little more work than that. And so, yeah, it was kind of fun because I didn't know anything about it, really. I knew about radios, but I had always done RC cars. I really hadn't done much radio-controlled flight stuff. I'd done some free flight things with gliders. Mm-hmm. But as far as radio and drones, I didn't know anything. So it was kind of funny. Ready Made RC, their director of production, Kevin McCleary, I had him in school. Yeah, I had him in school.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah, so he was in my technology club as a middle schooler.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I was just talking to another teacher about this drone thing I'd heard about, and I'm trying to figure out how to make it work. And they're like, Kevin flies drones for a living, right? I'm like, seriously? So yeah, that's how we got connected with Ready Made, was through Kevin, which is,
that's cool.
It's just the way it goes. And that's what this hobby's about, right? It's about connection and staying in touch and being nice to people, and then later on you find out it's a great benefit.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Funny.
Well, Tad, you brought something to us that you wanted to share today, and I think we should get started with that.
All right, we can do that. Let me get that pulled up here on my screen, and then I'm ready. Go ahead and let me know when you can see it on your end.
All right, looks like we're good to go. Thank you to
our
producer.
Sure. Yeah, working the magic behind the screen there. So
good job,
our event. That's right. Our competition is called Drones in School. So if you want to write down the website, dronesinschool.com is where you can go to get this information. I'm just going to run through real quick and give people here on the call just an overview of what it is you're going to kind of get into. So first of all, that didn't work. Let's see if it'll play. No, it's not going to let me play. Well, that was fun. Oh, probably come at the end. Let's try the beginning. Both slides are the same. That'll help. There we go. So, our idea is to create drone racing, right? But we're doing it in a school, and those of you that are students probably can figure out pretty quickly that a lot of teachers and administrators, they don't want this to be dangerous. And originally we talked about doing a larger drone, like the 3-inch drone, but those are very dangerous when you're talking about racing. And so a lot of our administrators and principals and teachers we're working with said that's not going to work, right? Our school board's not going to allow us to do that. There's too much liability. So we went with a tiny whoop scale, and we try to keep everything very safe, very scalable, but yet still fun. We don't want it to be like a boring, slow race. We want it to be fun for everyone. And what you're going to do is you create a team. So actually you're creating a racing team. So it's not just you by yourself, but it's an entire team of people. And so you go through all the process of creating a racing team. If you're a NASCAR team, or an F1 team, whatever those might be, you have a project manager. You're going to create logos. You're going to do the manufacturing. You're going to have a design engineer that's working on the design of your drone. You're going to do marketing because you're going to want to get sponsors. You have a drone technician that actually does most of the repair work. And these jobs can kind of be broken up. Some teams choose to have everybody do a different job. Some teams decide they share the jobs. And you can see on the slide there, you have 3 to 6 students on a team. Okay, so a school might have one team, or they might have 5 teams. Just depends on how many they want and how many kids are interested.
I love
the competition itself is multifaceted. So you have to create a little display booth. You have a technical evaluation, which is about how you manufactured your drone and the engineering. Then you actually create a video. So you create a video, kind of an advertisement, you might say, or maybe like a pitch video that you're going to send out. And then you have a portfolio you create. Basically is an engineering notebook that you're going to go through everything you did to get to this point. And then, of course, we have the race, which is the part everybody's shooting for. So what you need to get started, it's pretty simple. You need a set of FPV goggles. You need some kind of a tiny whoop scale drone. We have on our website some approved flight controllers, but we really don't have a lot of limitation on that. If you've got a different flight controller, as long as it can plug into Betaflight and it has the ability to fly with a radio and FPV, it's probably going to work for what we're doing. And of course, you're going to need some kind of radio. And then along with that, you're going to need batteries and those kind of things. But that's the basics: goggles, a drone with a camera, and some kind of radio to control it.
Awesome.
So in the process, you're going to go through.
Tad?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry
what was that?
But what's the
No, go
age
ahead.
group that kids generally participate in drones in school?
Yeah, our competition is middle school and high school. So we have middle school division, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And then we have a high school division, which is 9, 10, 11, 12. And so you will compete in your kind of age range. You might race against everybody, depending on what size the race is that you go to, but the awards are separate.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. Continue.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, sorry, I can't see you when I have this up, so
sorry, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, just interrupt. That's fine, Claire. What you're going to do is you kind of go through the season. Is you're going to kind of make a plan, right, of kind of what you're going to tackle and what you're going to call your team and those things. You're going to make your drone design, and then you're going to actually construct that drone. So that's kind of the hard part, is designing it. We have some tutorials on our website you can use. We have Autodesk Fusion tutorials, which is a free program you can get from Autodesk if you're a school or a student. And then we use Tinkercad, which is another free program You can use that to design your drone. And then most of the time, students are 3D printing those frames. You can see on that slide there some examples of some different designs this team went through to kind of get to their final design, which is there on the pedestal. And that process is the testing, right? So you're gonna build something. It's probably not gonna work the first time. You know, I mean, drones, it's a complicated process. Weight is a huge factor. Aerodynamics obviously is a huge factor. All those things kind of play into making this thing work. Once you got it tested, then you come in a race, and that's really the fun part. So the planning part we'll go through real quick is just kind of project management and kind of learning how to have a project and how to manage a project as you go through. The design work, you see a couple examples there. You have a 3D printed mock-up and then a 3D model design that actually, the one in the white there is one that we designed for a team that I was working with. So they made it so that the camera could actually clip on with a rubber band so they could take it off quickly if they need to make some changes. And then you make it. So this, the one there, the green and black one, that actually was probably our best team from last year. They're at a library here in Central Ohio. They're mostly homeschool students that got together to create a team. They had really nice drones. The other picture there you see is a 3D printed frame that's actually printed upside down, but it's kind of getting ready to be taken off of the build plate there. Then we test it. Obviously, you'll see there in the the upper left-hand corner. Sometimes that happens. You crash, and it's time to go back to the drawing board. But that's all part of the learning. And the good thing is it's 3D printed stuff. It's pretty cheap, and typically we don't have a whole lot of damage to the camera or the flight controller. So occasionally you'll have a prop or a motor that you'll have to replace, but generally they're pretty rugged.
Yes.
And then we race. So we have two parts to our race. I'll kind of bring those up real quick. On the left-hand side, you'll see what we call our capture the flags. You see those light up beacons out there. When you fly your drone over top of those beacons, they'll turn red or they'll turn blue. And there's 10 beacons out there, and there's 2 teams, and each team has 2 drones. So there's 4 drones flying around. You see those 2 trying to chase each other. So there you see that beacon's red. We'll fly over it, and then eventually he gets flight over a few times. He doesn't quite get close enough to the sensor. But eventually that'll turn back to red, and he's captured that beacon back for his red team. Okay, and it's a back and forth. It's a 2-minute competition. I think he gets it this time. There it goes, almost. Okay, but it takes a little bit of practice. There it's red. Okay, so he's running to the next one. So they'll fly the next one and make that one red. So it's a back and forth kind of game. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see our FPV part of the competition, which is a traditional race. So you have some hoops and you've got some flags, and the drones are all piloted by camera, and they're wearing goggles, and they're flying those around as fast as they can in 2 minutes to try to get as many laps in as possible. So that's kind of cool.
That looks so fun.
It is a lot of fun. I tell you, the Capture the Flag is a really fun event because it has that back and forth, and kids really get into it. So like, oh, I got 7. Oh, I got 4, and so they'll be going back and forth, and you have 2 drones. So everybody's cheering. It is a pretty fun time.
Yeah. Well, it's such a great program, and especially because you're using components that are, off the shelf and relatively accessible in terms of the cost. And, it's not super involved to jump into beta flight. There's a ton of tutorials and training that's out there for that kind of material. But then, the idea that really is exciting for me from kind of a STEM idea and maybe even STEAM is that, you really are thinking about the engineering behind building that frame for each of these, that balance point between strength, durability, and the weight factor is really where I think a lot of those principles are brought to the forefront in this competition. And, it's I've heard Claire say it a lot of times, and I say it too, if we can trick kids into learning, right, we're doing great. And that's, how fun is this? This is an opportunity. We've had a few questions in the comment stream as far as where you're located and who can participate in this program.
Sure. Yeah, I'm in Central Ohio. I'm about an hour north of Columbus, but this is open to anybody in the nation. We actually have a partner that's starting to work on maybe creating one in Canada to create some races up there. But we have a partnership we're hoping to launch here in the next couple weeks with an international partner who does a lot of drone racing to kind of be their STEM program. So we're really excited about that. Stay tuned to our Facebook page and our website. We'll be releasing that shortly.
Great.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah, and
that.
anybody can participate. Like I said, doesn't have to be a school necessarily. Like I said, we have a homeschool group. You do have to find 3 people because there's a minimum team of 3. But if you had 3 siblings that were all high school or middle school age, you certainly could make that work.
What I really love about this program is the fact that it incorporates so many different elements that are applicable just about any context. Like you have the marketing manager, you have the design manager, you have the person doing testing. All of these things are great life skills to have. And then you get to do capture the flag. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's right.
That's so much fun. I love
that kind of was our goal, right? There's other drone competitions out there that are really, you just fly a drone, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great program and it's a lot of fun to just fly. And a lot of people on the call probably haven't really thought about maybe the other pieces of a career related to aeronautics or flight or the hobby of aeronautic modeling. But this really brings all those in. So every company out there, if they're making model airplanes, they have to have somebody doing design work. They have to have somebody doing the marketing. They've got to have somebody doing videos and video production. So all those pieces go in. So we said, let's build a competition that allows kids to maybe find something they didn't really know they would love, and that could be a real career field for them.
Yeah, and teaching that teamwork, how those different members facilitate those roles and requirements and find a way to do it effectively. That's a life skill right there that's going to go a long way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And all the information, if you're interested, you can go to our website, dronesindschool.com. To get started, we've got a link there. It takes you to Ready Made RC to kind of learn what kind of equipment you might need to buy. We've also have links to some online curriculum, and it's free. So if you're like, I don't know anything about this, I don't know how to do 3D modeling, or I don't know how to use Betaflight, you can go there and again, just log in as a guest and it lets you right in. Then you can go through that curriculum. It will teach you the basics of what you need to know to set up your drone in Betaflight, to create your model, to do 3D printing. And we're adding to that curriculum every year.
That's awesome. So we've got a question from Juicy Kids. I might have said that wrong. If so, I apologize. But it was, what is the college that you went to?
I went to The Ohio State University. Yes, that's where I went for my undergrad. And then I got my master's degree from the American College of Education in instructional design. So I started off as technology and engineering education and then moved to instructional design.
That's awesome. Ted, do you have more on your slide deck you'd like to share? Or
that's all. Yeah, you can take that down. Actually, it would be great.
Awesome. Not a problem. I think we may have had some connection issues with Claire. So it looks like she's dropped, but she'll be back, I'm sure.
That earlier in the day.
Yeah, go figure. So there's another question from Vicky Youn. And it is, what was your first model airplane? And it may have been a drone.
Yeah, right. And I thought Claire sent me some questions to think about, kind of like how I got started in this. And I kind of had to reflect, like, how did I get interested in flight? And it's kind of a funny story. When I was younger, I was probably second or third grade. We were in church, and we kept getting in trouble for making the bulletins into paper airplanes.
Been there and done that.
Yeah. And so our pastor at the time went, all right, we're going to end this. So he's like, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a day. We're going to bring all you kids in on a Saturday, and you're going to have a paper airplane contest in the church. But then once we're done with that, you can't make any more paper airplanes. So we got to stand in the balcony and fly our paper airplanes towards the pulpit. And that's really got me started in flight, was really paper airplanes. And then when I became a teacher, because of that interest, I started teaching kids how to make styrofoam gliders. And so we would make gliders and we would shape them using rasps and files, and we would 3D model them. And that was really my first, as far as model airplane were those. But when it came to radio, the first one was a drone. Yeah, because I really hadn't really done any radio stuff with flight. I had cars and trucks and boats and all kinds of stuff like that, but nothing with a wing until I got something with a prop. So yeah, I brought my, so I got it in my bag here, but it was very similar. My first one came from Ready Made RC, and it was similar to this little guy here. It was a little tiny whoop. So
yeah, there you go.
Not much to it. And I learned how to fly, and I broke it, and then I had to buy another one, and that's kind of the way it went.
And now you know how to build them, how to repair them, how to fix them.
Right.
And the nice thing about the tiny whoops is, depending on what you get, obviously, but a lot of them are plug and play. It's very easy to, and especially nowadays. Now, starting out, there was a little bit more soldering, and you had to be careful. But I guess that's a question for you. With these kids, do you find that you're utilizing solder skills, or is it all plug and play technology that you're using?
So it depends on the team. So some teams may choose to do something a little more high end where they have to solder, but to get started, plug and play is really all you need. Most of the motors are all, they're all the same pretty much connector now. So you can swap out motors and props and really not have to do any soldering. The main soldering it happens because somebody had a violent crash and they've damaged it, right? So they broke a wire off and they're trying to repair it back to how it was from the factory. So we do get into a little bit of soldering, and it's certainly a great skill to have if you're going to be in this hobby or really any electronics hobby.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking through some of the questions here.
Sure.
How do you get to be on a team? Well, you probably find some people that are excited about this competition and talk them into it.
Yeah. So the main thing is talk to a teacher. You have an engineering teacher or a math teacher or a science teacher and say, hey, I heard about this drone racing thing. Would you be interested in being our advisor? Send them the website. You can send them my email. And that way, they can jump in and they can get started. We have training that we do for teachers. Some teachers are not comfortable because they don't really know how to do it themselves. So they want to learn. So we run some workshops. They could come to one of our workshops, but really they don't have to know much, right? As a student, if you're in the AMA, you probably are already interested in flight and you're pretty self-sufficient and willing to go out and dig there and get information. So you're probably in pretty good shape. But if they're not comfortable, send them our way and we'll get them introduced to what they need to know and get you up and running.
Yeah. We had somebody calling out the paper airplane. So I mean, that's how so many people get their start, right? Folding and building and frying. And that's how we actually got our start in the AMA Junior Camp this week. Our very first lesson was building a paper airplane. And, there's a lot more out there, a lot more opportunities to engage, even just in something as simple as that paper airplane. That's one of the things that I really do love about model aviation is that, it looks like Claire's back.
Claire!
Is really the opportunity to invest so much into down to the smallest detail that you want. And, there are benefits to doing that. And it's the same with paper airplanes, the same with these tiny whoop style drones, the same with, turbine jets. There's a place for everybody and there's always something new to learn. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And that I keep finding that in my own life, is I started off with the tiny whoops, right? And learned how to do that. And then I thought, you know what? I want to have a bigger drone. So I was flying my tiny whoops outside and it wasn't very fun if there was any kind of wind. So I thought I'm going to move up to a 3-inch prop, called down to Ready Made and said, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay. So give me a box of parts that'll work together. And they put together a package and gave it to me. They didn't give me any instructions. I got to talk about that. But so I had to do a lot of Googling, right? I was like, I have no idea. And so they put together a wonderful package, but it took me, it was one of my COVID projects, was I have nothing else to do, so let's build a drone. So I ended up getting it working after a little bit of, trial and error, but it did fly and it's been pretty fun. So just encourage you to keep learning, and the technology keeps getting better and better. In the world of drones, that's what I'm most familiar with. I was so excited. My Black Sheep Squadron camera, I can just hold my phone up with a QR code, and it will change the channel. I don't have to even touch it. I just put my phone in front of it, and it changes the channel automatically now. So
much easier than trying to find the little pins and adjust the settings and go to the VTX.
All that. Like tap this little button and like, am I on A or B? I don't know what I'm on. And I just hold my camera up. It sets the wattage. It sets the channel, all set to go. So pretty good.
Henry Aberson jumped in and said, well, what if you don't have access to a 3D printer?
So you don't have to 3D print it. You could create it any way you want. You can manufacture it just by cutting it out and shaping it out of, plastic or wood or even cardboard if you wanted to. What we have found, though, there are a lot of companies out there and services that will 3D print for you. So you can just send them your file and they'll send you back a 3D printed frame. We also are looking, if you're in that situation, Henry, and you want to get involved, just reach out to us. We have schools that have, maybe 10 or 15 3D printers that they are able to use. And a lot of our teams have agreed that if another team needs to print, they'll print it for you and send it back. And you just pay for the materials, which is pretty cheap. You're probably looking like $5 or $10, maybe a frame, if that.
I want to throw out there as well, your local library might have a 3D printer.
Yes, good point.
Our library just up the street has a 3D printer, and they even have courses there where you can learn how to use it and do all kinds of really cool stuff. So you're not limited by the fact that you don't personally have one. You definitely have resources out there. It just takes a little bit of Googling.
Well, the cool thing about this hobby is we're all there to jump in and help each other out. And you're running this competition, it's a educational competition. But at the end of the day, if one team needs something and another team has it, I'm sure you've seen this, Tad, where people will jump in and help out. Everyone wants to have a fair competition, right? And compete on that same level. And whether you're just at the flying field and having a good time or whether you're involved in this competition, I'm sure it's the same story.
Yeah, exactly. We had our big competition in Columbus this year, and we actually had 2 teams that were going for the championship. And one of them, somehow I don't know what they did, plugged the battery in backwards. They fried their flight controller. And the team that was going to compete against them said, I've got a spare flight controller, and we will give you one so we can compete. Even though they knew they might lose, they're willing to, they said, it's no fun to win that way. We want to win by actually racing.
That's awesome.
Really was a cool story.
That's so great that they learned that sportsmanship. The fact that they went ahead and just offered is fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Well, I don't know what you guys talked about while I was gone, but I have this series of questions that I've been pitching to all of our panelists this week, and some of them, honestly, you've already answered, such as, how do you incorporate model aviation in your day-to-day? Obviously, what you do with drones in school is model aviation right there.
Yeah, right on.
And you did mention earlier that, you did a little bit of free flight. Do you remember the first time that you got into model aviation? Do you remember how long ago that was and what you first flew and what really drew you to this hobby?
Yeah, it actually was. We kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. I think maybe when you were out about doing some paper airplanes in church, actually is how I got started in that. Another story that I'll kind of share that was kind of after that. I had a family friend who he was kind of like my adopted grandfather, and I was over at his house, and I don't know, we're doing something in his garage, and he had this broken up model airplane that was the old plastic heat shrunk airplane that him and his son had made when he was a child. And I said, man, that is so cool, can I have that? He said, yeah, it's junk, we don't want it. So he gave it to me, and so I kept that. And I still have the model engine. I don't even know what it is, little Cox,
It's 049 probably. Yeah.
Yeah, 049. That's what it was. Little Cox motor on there. And I was just fascinated by that little motor, and how that little motor with that prop. And I never got it running, but I used to just spin it. I just spin it and watch the cylinder go up and down. And that's really got me interested in mechanisms, really, and mechanics and engineering. And that all kind of came from, that exposure to a model airplane.
That's awesome. I actually have a little engine that I take on field trips, and I pass it around to the kids, and I'm like, go ahead and turn the propeller, see what happens. And they are fascinated. So I love that is what spurred your love of this hobby. Just a little engine. That's fantastic.
It was. Yeah, it really was.
Oh, people are asking if you happen to have the motor with you.
I don't. Unfortunately, I mentioned to Claire and Kyle, I'm actually in Tennessee right now. I'm running a robotics camp. They were able to run it even though we had the whole COVID scare. We all have I have my 3D printed mask I made, so I can be safe. But we have to wear masks all day. So that's what you missed with Camp AMA. We had to wear masks all day and keep socially distant. But I will say it's not been that fun sometimes to wear a mask all day with students. So you probably made the right choice. But I don't have my engine, but I'll see if I can get a picture to Claire maybe later, and then she can share it out.
Yeah, totally. I would love to share that with everybody.
And if you ever are in the area here at the IAC in Muncie, Indiana, there's a huge exhibit on all the different model engines through different years. We've had people come from overseas just to see that exhibit itself. And Claire can attest to that, I'm sure.
It's true. We've had I remember a couple summers ago a gentleman came into the museum and he asked specifically where the engine collection was, and I was like, I mean, it's right in the
Follow
back
me.
of the gallery.
Right.
Let's go. But it turned out he was visiting all the way from Norway. And I don't know how he heard about our collection, but he specifically came to our museum here in Muncie, Indiana, just to see this engine collection. And he spent
Isn't
the
that
whole
cool?
day there. He live streamed it, he Facebooked it, he Snapchatted it. He had the time of his life. So
Wow.
definitely come see our motor collection, because
Yeah.
that guy
That's
came
awesome.
from Norway, making
Yeah.
it world famous.
Exactly. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was pretty great. Let's see here. What's the best motor to use? That's a good question. And that is a loaded question. It really depends
Yeah.
on what you're flying.
Yeah,
So...
Dorothy jumped in for what?
Right,
It makes a lot of
right.
sense.
Yeah, so I'll speak to the drones in school. So we've been using, I don't remember the Kyle will remember but they have rainbow, unicorn,
Plaid,
silver.
all the different.
I think it's like B-Brain is what we've been flying a lot. And what students have found is, obviously most students, they want to go fast, right? That's their thing is I want fast motor. But what they forget is fast motor means quick electric draw. Okay, so they lose battery quickly. You can only have one battery on your drone in the rules, and it's just a little single cell LiPo, which I've got one here I can show you. So it's just a little single cell LiPo battery is all you get. So there's only so much voltage you can pack in that little guy. So you've got about 2 or 3 minutes of flight. And our races, each one of the capture the flag and our head-to-head race are 2 minutes long. So when you get the real hopped up motors, yeah, you can fly really fast, but you can only fly
Not
for
for
like a
very
minute.
long. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's like
sometimes
a
even a minute.
sprint as opposed to a marathon. more or less.
Correct. Yeah. So if you can get a bunch of laps in real quick and get ahead, then you're good. But in capture the flag, it doesn't work so well because you're sitting on the floor and everybody else is flying around changing the flags back to their
Catching
color.
all the colors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
So
you've got multiple tiny
in the
loops.
middle is really what I want to be. The unicorn motors are a little too hot, but the silver motors are a little too slow. So like the gold or sometimes the black motor have been pretty successful in that brand. But again, it depends on what you're flying. Students have experimented a lot with material. That's been the interesting thing, Kyle. You kind of asked what kids are learning. Trying different 3D printed material. So we had a team that they actually used a flex material, so it was actually kind of rubbery, so that when the drone would run into things, it wouldn't break. And so they ended up kind of going with that idea. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah. And we've had some teams now start to use different materials. So use a harder material for their guards and their shrouds around the prop, but then use a softer material for the actual frame. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with it.
Mm-hmm. And then you get into the whole, the vibrations and the oscillations for the flight controller and how to filter that out using Betaflight. So I'm sure there's a lot of different lessons that are learned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like you said, it's something you could do this for your whole life and you'd still have something to learn.
And you guys are using typically brushed motors, correct?
We are currently using brushed. Yeah. When we started here 2 or 3 years ago, brushed was really the only whoop option. Yeah. And they didn't have brushless whoops at that point. We are looking at, as we grow the program, to maybe separate out the middle school and high school programs. So maybe the high school would be brushless and the middle school would be brushed. That way kids could kind of have a learning progression as growth. We'd like to really get into larger drones, but right now the safety facet is just too much of a risk for most schools to take on.
Mm-hmm.
Tad, can you explain for our viewers that might not be as familiar with drone terminology the difference between brushless and brushed motors? Just like a really quick rundown.
Sure. Yeah. So a brushed motor actually has a physical brush that it touches the armature. So the armature is the part of the motor that spins, right? And so the brush actually will touch that, and it physically transfers electric from the brush to the armature to create that electric force that creates the magnetism. In a brushless, the magnets don't touch. They stay about this, they're really close together. I mean, it's hard to show on the screen, but they're really close together. And then it pulses one magnet, and that one will turn negative. And we know that, opposites attract and same forces repel. So it will pulse. It'll turn this one negative and it'll push this magnet away. Then the next one will go negative and it'll push that one away. So it's just constant kind of pulse of making that brushless motor spin. Brushless is nice because there's no friction, right? There's nothing actually touching. So it's more efficient use of energy, and you can get a lot faster flights because with a brushed motor, when it's touching that armature and spinning, you're creating friction. So you're kind of limited to how fast you can go. You actually melt the metal because it'll go too fast. There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
Good job, producer Dylan.
There it is. He's the man. So yeah, so that kind of shows you what that looks like. And you can see there on the left side, you can see the brushes, the little gold pieces. They're actually touching, the commutator in the armature. Where on the right side, they're brushless, and it's just pulsing the coils to change the magnetic field. And it really is like brushless motors are super cool. It's a really interesting technology, and really the world of drones and flight have really pushed that technology. Along with Tesla, of course, they're using brushless motors.
They helped a little.
A little bit.
That's fantastic. Thank you for the explanation, and to Dylan for the great
Yes, thanks for the graphic.
All right, we're getting close to the end of our afternoon session here. And Tad, I like to close out our panelist discussions with a question for our panelists that I think is really, really important. So I want you to give this some thought. All right, okay. So what advice do you have for model aviation enthusiasts, for all of our friends watching, all the campers, and everyone who is a camper at heart? Because, of course, this is not just exclusive to AMA Junior campers. It's also for anybody who happens to be watching. How might these people apply their hobby, their love, their passion for this for model aviation in a future career context?
So, I reflected on that a little bit. And I think the one thing that I've kind of taken from modeling in general and model aeronautics specifically, especially in the drone world, is don't give up. You're going to hit spots in the hobby where things aren't working, where you crash a plane or you crash a copter or crash a drone and it breaks. And some people's tendency is to say, I'm no good at this. I can't do this. That really applies anywhere in life. Right. I was reflecting with a good friend of mine. He's been very successful. He owns his own company. And I said, are you that much smarter than everybody else that you were able to do this? And he said, no. So I'm not smarter than most people, honestly. He said, I was an average student. He said, the only difference between me and someone else is I don't quit. He said, I never give up. And if I put my mind to something, I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to stick to it until I get it done. And so I would say that's really the best thing you can learn. And I think this hobby teaches you that, because you're going to have problems, right? You're going to have drones that don't fly. You're going to have planes that crash. You're going to have builds that go poorly and you glued something in the wrong place. So definitely don't give up. Keep working and everything you do. When you put your mind to something, get it done and you'll get there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That is some really great advice. I appreciate that. Just myself personally, don't ever give up, guys. That's the moral of today's afternoon session. Well, everybody, I want to thank everyone watching for being here. I want to thank Tad for being here. Thank you for sticking out with us here at AMA Junior Camp, even through all of my technical difficulties. This afternoon session was at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and it went to about 2:40 Eastern time on July 9th, 2020 it's Thursday. It's the 4th day of camp. We're almost done, which makes me so sad. And so if you have any questions for Tad and you're watching this at a future date, just send them to me, education@modelaircraft.org. I'll forward them on to Tad for you so that he can answer all of your questions. And, guys, I just want to throw a little something out there, and you might not have heard about this just yet, but I am sad that camp is about to end. Tomorrow's our last day, but we have something really special in store for you tomorrow. So to all the campers out there, and actually to all the viewers, we have something for everyone tomorrow. So anybody who is a would-be camper, be sure to tune in tomorrow. That's going to be at noon Eastern time. So Tad, I'm going to invite you as well, you and all your campers.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do that. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think the email went out potentially to all of our membership already, but I'll go ahead and share a little bit further. It's in the flight packs that were sent out to our AMA junior campers, there was a bonus project, right? And Claire and I kind of talked back and forth about, how are we going to share this? Are we just going to kind of say, hey, this is awesome, go have fun, enjoy, take what you've learned? But the more we thought about it, the more we wanted to kind of engage everyone in a little taste of what AMA Junior Camp has been for us in this very first opportunity to host that event. And so, as Claire said, at noon tomorrow on Friday, we will be hosting that that opportunity to really see what it's about, see what it's like, kind of share in that experience. So for the kids that may be watching, get permission to see if you can come in and watch that. It will be open to everybody. And for the kids at heart that are out there, even if you don't have an AMA Alpha on hand, you can get one ordered and you can watch it later. But watch the comments come through, watch the engagement of both kids and tomorrow it'll be adults too, as we explore learning and just have fun. That's what it's about.
Absolutely. So thanks again to Tad for coming to AMA Junior Camp virtually.
Yeah, you're
Hopefully
welcome.
We'll see you again soon. And I'll see everybody tomorrow.
I would like to add one more little piece if I got a second.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this, but I wanted to kind of clue everybody in. If you're interested in drones in school and you want to get started, but you don't have a drone, next year we're going to add a simulator race to our competition. We're going to be using Velocidrone, which is a computer software you can use to do racing simulation. So if you have a radio and you can plug in your computer to do a simulator, you can download Velocidrone. There's a link on our website. You can get it there. That's something you might want to look at. And maybe you could practice. You can't go outside and do much else right now, but you can practice Velocidrone and get ready for your races next year. So I want to let people know that for our future season.
Oh my gosh, Tad, that's so cool. I'm so excited. I didn't even know about this. So
yeah,
that's what I'm going to be doing
fun too.
all winter.
There you go.
All right. Well, I'll see everybody tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time for our final official camp project. And then again at noon for our bonus project. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.